Hi everyone, it's Dr. Ramani. Welcome back to this YouTube channel that takes on a whole bunch of issues relevant to understanding narcissism. Today I'm actually going to go off in a different direction. We're going to actually combine principles of how you might organize your underwear drawer with how you manage the narcissist in your life. What am I getting at? Well, before I get to that, please subscribe to this channel. Hit that subscribe button if you're new and hit that bell if you want to get notifications. We put videos out almost every single day to always keep you up to speed on all things related to these difficult personality issues. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to take a moment right now and I want you to reflect on the people in your life. And I want you to think about what would happen is if you lifted up each person and held them up and say, does this person bring me joy? If you only kept the people in life who did bring you joy, how many people would you have left? You might want to drop that in the comments. I'd love to hear how many of you say, yeah, if I had that standard, I'd probably lose half the people in my life. So let's talk about this. Let's take the principles of home organizing brought to you by Marie Kondo and apply it to how you manage the difficult people in your life. Now, not too long ago, organizer and lifestyle guru Marie Kondo launched a movement that's centered around sort of home organization, but almost in a healing way, clearing clutter and purging the many things that bury us to sort of clear us out psychologically. Now, I'm simplifying this here, but basically to apply her principles, her basic approach is that a person commit to uncluttering and then discarding. And as you make these decisions about what you're going to discard, reflect on whether this item or these items bring you joy. Lift the underwear, does this bring me joy? Her approach focuses on things and clutter, old dishes, dresses, VHS tapes, boxes of stuff, but it's all stuff. And stuff is hard enough to purge. People will say, oh, but I wore that dress to my sister's wedding, even though the dress is 10 sizes too small, or I don't know, maybe those dishes are going to be worth something someday. Maybe we should hold on to them, or maybe my kids will want that someday. So we keep this stuff around until this stuff overtakes us. We struggle with throwing our stuff out because of this extra meaning we ascribe to it, including that dress that's 10 sizes too small. So why do we keep this stuff around? Possibly for nostalgia. The item may remind us of an event or some memory of the past that we want to hold on to and commemorate. For example, we may hold on to the candles from an old birthday cake. You may feel guilt. Ugh, I feel so bad throwing out those old recipe books of my grandmother or the encyclopedias my mom gave me. You may hold on to stuff out of obligation. I feel like I have to hold on to my children's stuff from their childhood bedrooms. What if they want an archive of their lives someday? Sometimes we hold on to stuff out of hope. Strange hope, like, oh, maybe this lunchbox will be worth something one day. Or maybe I can sell all my stuff on eBay and make lots of money. And then there's always fear. Fear of, well, you might need this item. Like, what if I need this old broken lawnmower one day and then I don't have it? Or what if I throw this out and I forget about my mother? Then there's economic necessity. I can't afford to throw out my old coats. I can't afford to buy a new coat every year, even though the old coats don't fit you. Another reason we hold on to stuff is lack of information. I didn't know that this entire collection of books have all been digitized for free, and I can get them if I want and get them off my shelf. And sometimes keeping stuff is simply a distortion. We want to keep the dress we wore to the family wedding, and yet it was a horrible night with criticism from an angry, narcissistic parent, tense arguments with your sister who was the one getting married, watching your aunt get drunk and fall over herself, and then it was just a replaying of all of your family dysfunction. Still, you want to keep the dress, right? So this stuff can all be a trigger, and we hold on to it. Perhaps we think we can shift the narrative, remember the dress, and ignore the dysfunction. So you got the stuff piece, and That Marie Kondo has nailed that. Like, she is a revolution unto herself. So now let's jump the rails a little bit and let's stop talking about tossing stuff, but let's talk about something else. Let's talk about removing unhealthy people from our lives. It's not healthy to live in lots of clutter. It's distracting, it's frustrating. It may actually have cost lots of money to acquire all that stuff, and it may even cost more money to get rid of all that stuff. And it could even be dangerous if too much of this stuff is accumulated in your house and in your garage, and you could trip over it, or it'll harbor rats or something. I don't know. It's just not good for you. If you can't get rid of an old dress or an old lawnmower, it isn't going to be that easy to get rid of people, is it? So let's take a page out of Ms. Kondo's playbook and think this through. She says we need to commit, declutter, and reflect on whether something brings you joy. What if we reflect on whether a person brings us joy? This may not be something you're going to set out to do on a rainy Saturday to get your closet in order, but this process of decluttering your personal life may be something that you start paying attention to. And the next time, whenever you're managing a toxic person, consider why this is a person who you keep. Much like the dress that doesn't fit or the lawnmower that no longer works. So first, let's consider the question, why do we keep people around? I mean, a lot of it is probably the same reason we keep things around. Nostalgia, guilt, obligation, lack of information, hope, fear, economic necessity, and even distortion. But if you can take that moment, really take a moment, and lift the people in your life up, psychologically at least, and give them a long, hard look and ask, does this person bring me joy? Do I grow from being with them? Do they fit my soul right? Is it respectful? Is this friendship respectful? Is relationship respectful? Do they actually see me? Do they hear me? And do they actually listen to me? If they don't, then according to these sort of cleanup procedures, one would argue, you should probably let them go. Okay, but I'm pushing it a bit, aren't I, right? People aren't dresses or lawnmowers, and letting go of people isn't quite as simple as just pulling a truck up to the Goodwill store. But all of that clutter of difficult people in your life is taking a toll. Sometimes you can't let the thing go. The nostalgia or the need, it's too much. In those cases, what do? When you can't let something go, maybe you can't leave it on a shelf in the house, but maybe you put them in an attic or a storage unit. But what if this is a person? Maybe you feel like you can't let go of someone important to you. And that could even be an intense relationship, like an adult child or a parent or a spouse. Well, you start by setting boundaries. I don't know, maybe setting boundaries is the equivalent of getting a storage unit. You put something in a storage unit, it's kind of out of sight and out of mind, but setting boundaries takes a toll. In a way, what do? You pay rent on the storage unit, right? And here you're putting the psychological toll of setting boundaries and keeping that difficult person in your life. As always, you're going to need to set boundaries and have realistic expectations and not engage and not defend and not explain and not personalize. It will still be uncomfortable, like still having all those boxes of stuff around you. You may not use the stuff, but they are still around and kind of staring at you, and you're always being reminded. But it is intentional, and you are aware that this is stuff you need to keep a distance from. And sometimes you will make the decision to actually let a person go. It's never easy, but sometimes it is the only way forward for some people. And perhaps that is the painful equivalent of tossing stuff away. And the other issue that scares people is recognizing that once you start distancing from people or even cutting them out of your life altogether, other people are not going to like it. And that's what I call that gaslighting by tribe, right? Everyone's going to say, well, he's not that bad. Why are you doing this? And you will find out that distancing from just one person will result in other people gaslighting you, shaming you, or otherwise telling you there is something wrong with you for not wanting to spend more time with your family. There's a little recognition of how abusive it is, but there's something wrong with you because you don't want to be with the family. And that, all of that, is part of the process of letting people go. It's a bit like clearing out that closet. You don't just tend to go into your closet and throw out one thing. Once one thing goes, you start reconciling yourself with tossing out lots of things. It's a tough balancing act. And once you start distancing from people in your life, even when you explain to other people in a very clear way why you're setting these boundaries, and by the way, you don't owe anybody an explanation for why you're doing this, you may also encounter people I call forgiveness shamers. These are the people who will tell you to forgive. And the fact of the matter is, forgiving is no one else's decision but yours. This idea of checking in and assessing whether something or someone brings you joy, personally, I think it's far more important with people than it is with things. So many of our human relationships are undertaken from a place of obligation. Oh, I have to call my family. I have to be in touch with my family. I have to make this marriage work. And that even extends to work. I have to make this job work. I have to get along with my boss. I have to get along with my colleagues. And I'm a realist. I wish we all lived in a world in which all relationships that were in our lives are the ones that fill us with joy. But it's not possible, and it's just not that simple. The problem is just the balance. Too many people are surrounded by too many joyless, toxic, difficult relationships, with very few relationships in their lives that bring them joy. It's the equivalent of having a closet full of 100 items of clothing that don't fit you or are worn out or out of fashion or that you don't like to wear. And in that closet are 5 pieces of clothing that you love to wear. The difference is that at least with that closet, you sort through all that stuff you don't like to wear and you keep wearing the same things over and over again, right? But with people, the challenge is you spend far more time managing the difficult people in your life who do not bring you joy, and you forget about or you don't build in time with the people who do bring you joy. Why? Because the ones who don't bring you joy, you feel guilty and you feel like you have to spend time with them. I have said many times that when we hear about the various health interventions out there, we always hear about how you should get enough sleep and you should eat healthy fruits and vegetables and grains and you should hydrate and exercise and engage in preventative health care and wear sunscreen. You've heard all this, right? These are the things that are supposed to be important for your health. We're good. We're really good with telling people you shouldn't eat potato chips, you shouldn't eat fast food. But somehow, it seems like we don't want to share the biggest health intervention of all. To remind people to stop spending so much time with difficult, invalidating people. While I've been using this analogy of decluttering, obviously this is a lot more profound than that. This is about getting the unhealthy out of your life. A person and the associated tension and stress that are filling you up with stress hormones and the thoughts and the emotions that are not good for you. That's what you need to get less of in your life. So as you go through your days, I want you to start doing this as an exercise. Think about the people in your life. In your mind, at least. You can make a list if you want. Hold them up in your mind and ask yourself, does this person bring me joy? If the answer is no, then take a minute and ask yourself, why am I keeping this person in my life so steadily? Why do I devote so many resources to them? Or at the very least, then ask yourself, why am I not setting better boundaries against someone who is not good for me? Here's my hope for you. I hope that your closets, drawers, heart, mind, and soul get decluttered really soon. I'd rather see a person that has an overflowing closet full of bell-bottoms and 1980s clothes than I would a person who has a life full of people who are difficult and invalidating. So go forth and declutter your personal lives. Thanks again. I hope this was helpful. And I'd love to hear from you and see if this technique works for you to frame it this way. It's funny how we can declutter stuff, but we actually can't declutter the thing that might have a bigger effect on our health. Thanks again for tuning in.